Hi, everybody. I want to show you just the basics of using Wevideo. So once you guys have logged in and created your Wevideo account, this is your dashboard. And this is where it's going to open up to every time you click on the Wevideo link. So for our first assignment, you guys are going to click Create a New Edit. And then just say Start Editing. Once you get into Wevideo, you have some options. If you click over here on the star button, all of these, this is all stock footage that's available for you to use. And our first assignment is just going to be using stock footage and taking it from here, dragging it down onto this timeline, and then adding some transitions, adding some titles, and adding music, just so you get to understand what are the basic things that Wevideo is able to do. So for this assignment, what I want you to do is come up into this search bar and search something that you're interested in. So I'll say zoo, the zoo. And when I click on that, it's going to bring up all kinds of footage from things that are at the zoo. And I'm going to look through at these different videos and decide what it is that I want to use. That's a pretty cool picture of that tiger. I don't know if I want it to be this long, but I like at least a piece of it. So I'm actually going to pause it right there and show you. This is kind of something that's important. Once you have clicked on a piece of footage up here and it's playing over here, you can shrink the part of the movie that you use. You can kind of select that. I like the part where the tiger turns right there, and then maybe cut it off at about, the tiger kind of goes away at that point. So I want this much of that piece of footage. I come back over here to where it is, and I drag it from there down onto my timeline. And the part of the footage that actually came down onto the timeline is just going to be that edited portion. So you can see it was just that part where the tiger came toward the camera. So now that I have that, I'm going to say that I carefully picked out other pieces of footage, but for right now, I'll just drag some different pieces of footage down. These are all these different zoo things that are happening at the zoo. And hopefully you can pick things that you're interested in and that you think kind of go together in an interesting way. Oh, here's another tiger thing. So anyway, I put these different things down on, this is called your timeline. And it kind of snaps everything right together, which is great. The next thing I want you to know how to do in Wevideo is transitions. So if you come up here to this button right here, it says transitions. These are all the different ways that you could add a transition from one clip to another clip. And we're going to learn a lot more about what kind of transitions there are in real movies. But for this assignment, you can do any kind of funky transition that you're interested in. So this is a really simple crossfade, which is like what 90% of the transitions in real movies are. And you've seen it before. So I just put it between these two clips and just watch how it's going to blend. It's going to crossfade those two things together. So it blends them together. But there are some more dramatic options. You could do something like this, and it's definitely clear that you put in a transition like that, and most movies don't do that. But for this assignment, you can do whatever you want. So in your assignment, you're going to put a transition between all of the different clips that you have. And this is really just, this whole assignment is about learning how to get used to using Wevideo. Okay, so let's assume that you have put transitions in between all of your different clips. I'll just pull one more down here so that I have a complete assignment. And that you've got a video that's at least a minute worth of stuff. I can tell how long my video is if I drag it to the end. I know up here on the timeline, I have 58 seconds, which is basically a minute. And then I want to add a couple more things. I want to add a title, to know how to add titles to things. So if you ever want words to be on the screen, this is what you need to know how to do. So in this titles, there's a bunch of different options. And the ones that say motion, the reason they say motion is that they move. So they've got some kind of animation feature on them. And you can take that title and then put it in your movie. So the way you do that is by dragging it down. I'm putting it on the video 2 layer. And then I want you to see how it's gonna put just the text in front of what it is that you have. So I don't want it to say what that says. So I'm going to go, I clicked on it, so it became orange. I came up here to these little lines and it gave me a pencil. When I clicked on pencil, it opens this up. And this is what it says. So I'm going to write my own stuff in here. So that was the big number. So I don't know. This is where you have a lot of creativity to do whatever you want. So I'll say number 1, and then I don't know, super zoo tigers. But that gives you an idea. Super zoo tigers. And if there's anything else that you wanted to change, you actually can change the fonts on all this stuff. So it could be whatever you wanted it to be. You could change the size of the font by, or maybe you can't change the font, I guess, or the size. You can if you get out of auto and you go to manual. I bet that's what you do. Anyway, save the changes. And that's what you do with your titles. If you want them somewhere, you can make them as long or as short as you want. But these ones that are motion, they have a certain length of time that the animation lasts. And so it's a little bit easier to use the static ones if you want it to be on there for a long time. So static means that it stays the same the whole time. So if you want like subtitle, these are all subtitle options. And when you pull that down, you know, it could be, you could pretend that the flamingos were saying something to each other in flamingo language, and you could make it be for as long or short as you wanted it to be the same way by clicking on it. So it becomes orange, going up here to the lines, and then doing that, and you suddenly have the options. And this one looks different because it's made for doing subtitles in something. So you can just highlight over it and say flamingo language or flamingo dialogue. There you go. And save the changes there, flamingo dialogue. And you would, if you wanted it to be, you know, keep changing from one dialogue to another, then you would say, okay, I have it down there once, but I'm going to pull it down again and do different words, and then again and do different words. So you are shrinking this to last as long as whatever they would be saying on screen. So a lot of options there. So we've gone over transitions, we've gone over titles. The next thing is audio. This is for the making audio. That's not even hard to understand. You can play it to see what it sounds like. And if you like that, keep it. What is important to know is that you have control over the volume. So by clicking on this little blue line, you can see right now that the volume is at 100%. If you want to fade it in, you can take the dot that's down here, drag it to 0. And then on this one, drag it to whatever percentage you want it to be at. And then I want you to hear how that changes the fade in. Can you hear that gradually fading in? And that's a pretty long fade, but you can hear that it keeps getting louder and louder and louder. And you can make your own decision on how distracting you think background music is when someone is talking, because you kind of had a good example of that, that if it's at the right level, you pay more attention to what the speaker is saying. But if it's too high, you pay more attention to the music. So you guys can make your own decision about that and see what you think. So that is mostly what you need to know about that. So I'm going to drag this so that it is all the way to the end so that it matches with the rest of my movie. My movie is still 28 or 58 seconds and 22 or 58 seconds and 22 half seconds. So after that, let's talk about how you finish doing a movie. Once it's at this point, you are going to press finish. You are then going to name it something. I'm going to say this is called Super Tigers and press set. And then I have a couple of options over here. This actually matters. So this is the thumbnail that your video would be on YouTube. So if you're ever intending to put any of this on YouTube, and I put a whole bunch of these on YouTube, this is the thumbnail that it's going to come up as. So I think out of this monkey profile or this tiger, that's kind of a cooler option. So that's what my video will look like. Look up here if you needed to change the title because you didn't in that first box, you could. Make sure that you've clicked the option for video and audio. You could make it so that you only exported the audio. And then SD versus HD. You guys all know that HD is higher quality. It's high definition. And SD isn't as high. So then the options are where you are sending this video to. So for me, I have a YouTube channel. I'm going to export mine directly to YouTube. If you click that button, you're going to have to sign in for the first time. And then always click your Google Drive, because then it's going to go straight to your Google Drive in a folder that Wevideo will create called Wevideo. And then press export. Once it's exporting, you then have a lot of, well, you just wait for it and then it'll show up in your thing. So that's kind of the basics of Wevideo. All of that should be enough to give you the information you need to do our first assignment, which is to just kind of use stock footage. That's what it's called, stock footage, to create a fun little video where you use all the different pieces of Wevideo.